Hey everyone, Maury Curtis Dunbar here. Welcome back to Painted Studio. This is our second live of the day, and we are working on finishing up the last of the 3 signs that I had out that we were doing this morning and yesterday. I am cranking them out because they need to go out to be sold tomorrow. All right, so I'm gonna flip this down. Let me get myself on my iPad here too, so that when people pop in, I can actually see what's going on. Hi, Diana. Nice to see you here. Okay, so you remember earlier we did the harvest board. So harvest, there's my foiled pumpkin. Hey, Sue Rowland. And Desiree, so I foiled my pumpkin. We did harvest on this side with the Woodhaven gold on it. So for the other side, I have already done our old Colorado foil. And then, hey Maddie, hey Desiree. And then I still have to foil the head. We're gonna put on the lettering and then we're gonna seal the whole thing up. After that, we're going to pour epoxy into the inset of the coffin one so I can add a little extra cool cloudiness to it. Hi Yaroslav, nice to see you here. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna flip my camera down. So we have already applied the Artsyville foil adhesive. It's been sitting on here for an hour. And you know, we went kind of a little more traditional for the pumpkin, went kind of an orangey color. I thought, what fun. Let's do gold cheetah. I like this color, and I think it looks really good with the old Colorado foil. All right. Choppy job of cutting that. Let me roll the foil back up. All right, now we're gonna put our cheetah. Now this one is slightly transparent. If you look at the back, you can see the front through, which is very rare. So that means this is gonna give a much more subtle, slightly matte release than we got with other things, but it's gonna look really cool. So there we go. Let's smooth our cheetah. That is cheetah, yes. Cheetah gold. Sorry, boy, I'm in trouble. I don't even know what I'm grabbing half the time. Standard operating procedure for me, right, Desiree? All right, so we're gonna foil this. We're gonna scrub vertically and horizontally. Remember, if you scrub in circles, you're apt to have a circular scrubbed looking release. So let's get this on. I just thought what fun would be to have a leopard pumpkin. Oh, I love that. I just have a little bit to get right here. Oh my God. Okay, that's just cool. I love this. All right, I'm gonna go check up where I had all my little pieces of string catch. I want to make sure I get that area foiled because it's really easy to miss those spots. And there we go. We are completely foiled. I mean, how cool is this? I love this. Somebody said something. Let me read what you're saying. Thanks, Desiree. Thanks, Diana. So look how cool that came out. Totally unusual choice of foil for the surface. I shouldn't say unusual. I should say non-traditional choice. And look at what a great result we got. All right, so now the last thing we have to do is put our letters on. Now, I decided that I wanted to go gold, but I picked a rich gold. So this won't be quite as easy to see as it would be if it were like the black. I'm out of black, so that's why I'm not using those. Using that color, but that's okay. All right, I have to put these in order because the lettering, again, we went with an Art Nouveau style lettering. I literally looked up Art Nouveau on my Cricut Maker and then adjusted the letter. Somebody was kind enough to explain to me how to unlock my dimensional shift on my Cricut Maker so then I could make these as wide as I needed to. Okay, we're gonna go A-R-T, I'm sorry, wrong. Now I'm thinking art and it's autumn. A-U-T. U-M and N. And I'm going to do exactly what I did last time because it worked perfectly. I'm going to draw myself a chalk line. I'm stacking these in the correct order because when I look at some of these sideways and stuff, it's very, they don't even look like letters to you guys because they're backwards. But this is an A, okay? Sideways, it doesn't even look like a letter. So I need to keep those in that order so I can get them installed correctly. All right, so I'm taking a piece of chalk. I'm going, I can see where about the center is. Again, if I was truly the OCD, anal retentive type, I would have pulled out a ruler and measured exactly where the middle was, and maybe even a T-square to keep the line perfect, but that's not me. I need a general idea of perfect. And we talked about my thoughts on perfection earlier today. So we know that's not my specialty. I don't like it. I like creative, I like handmade, I like flaws because I think that makes you more interesting. Okay, let's do this. We're gonna peel off the A and then we're gonna start pulling the letters down. Now, as I did in my last video, I pull my letters completely free of the backing tape. It simply makes it easier for me to use the transfer tape to get everything centered nicely. And the chalk just goes away. Okay, that's good and square. And it's right side up, unlike earlier today. If you weren't here earlier, yeah, I mounted a whole word upside down. Okay. So the reason I cut these apart instead of printing them perfectly spaced, I only have so much of certain foil, certain adhesives, vinyls, and I wanted to use this color and it needed to fit within the parameters of the amount that I had. So I typed it up, crammed it together, and then printed it out. Or worked it out, and then that'll be good. Oh yeah, that's nice. Make it a little further down. Okay, and again, I'm rolling my mounting paper, my mounting tape, I'm rolling it back instead of pulling it straight up so I don't stress the adhesive and keep it, tear up everything. I don't want to do that. I want to keep everything firmly mounted. I do a lot of stuff eyeball. That's why I take a minute or two to do the mounting. Like I said, I'm not that kind of an OCD person where I have to have everything measured out perfect. I'm much more human error kind of person. And you've seen me, I make plenty of errors. Okay, the mounting tape allows me to space it and visualize it before I put it down. That clear thing, that ability to have that clear is very, very helpful to me. If I had the white paper, I couldn't see it as well. Okay. There's our M. Let's get this down just a little bit. And this is a textured metallic vinyl, so it adds a little visual interest in that way. Okay. And truly, I have to stand up to do something this big. I need to see it straight on and not sit at it sideways. Otherwise, I just will not get it laid out right. Because sideways, for something like this, for me, means that I'll put it on crooked. All right, last letter, autumn. There we go. Peeling it back. Okay, just take my hand, wipe off that extra chalk, and then we're going to seal this. So I'm going to take my little brush. We're going to use AquaGuard Gloss. Again, not, this is the jug it comes in. And we have quart jars. But because I buy it for the studio, I buy it in full-size gallons like this, and then I pour off into little jars so that I can just dip into a jar instead of pouring out, pouring back in. That's not my favorite thing to do because I find I waste a lot of product that way. So now I'm just coming back and brushing on my AquaGuard Gloss to seal this all up. And I had already put on a coat of AquaGuard Gloss before I put on the letters. I find that that helps the letters adhere better, but it also is indoor and outdoor rated. And then now that I've done that, the brushing over it removed all the chalk, mixed a little bit into our top coat. You will never see it. It's brushed out smooth. Let me come over this way so I can top coat my pumpkin. Okay. Set that way. This has nice self-leveling, a little self-leveling properties. So this will lay out, again, what I will stress what I stressed before. Half of the problem most new painters have with having streaky top coats is that they come back and they work the product and they brush and they brush and they brush and they brush. Don't do that. Brush it on, smooth it out, leave it alone. Because otherwise you're going to have the same problems. It's going to be streaky because whatever you've done, you're starting to brush into it when it's drying, and that's doing bad things to your surface. Alrighty, let me put that over here. I'm gonna hold it up for you at the end so you can see it, but I just need to let that sit for a second. Let me come back here and clean up a little bit. I just needed to make sure there were no dribbles once I set it up right. That would have been sad. And let me check the other side to make sure nothing dribbled out the other side to do bad things. And it hasn't. Good, good, good. That's what I have to do with everything like that. I have to, sorry that it was all off camera, but basically I had to set it over here to dry, and I have to brush, 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 brush to catch any drips that show up once it's upright, flipped it over, and because I have little openings over here on the pumpkin, I needed to check the other side to make sure none of the top coat had gone through and left dribbles. Sorry, dribbles. I'm having just total word issues today. I'm losing my words again. It's probably because I've got a lot going on in my head. Doesn't always look it, but there's a lot going on in this place. All right, let me take a second and see what it says. Rose, it says autumn. Now, I will show that to you again after it's just cured up a little. We're gonna go work on the coffin because that's where we're gonna have a little epoxy fun. We've had so many flies in here. I'm hoping flies don't land in it, but then again, if it does, it might be seasonally appropriate. Okay, so here is our coffin. We did that earlier. It's been all sealed and top coated, and the top coat has dried. As you can see, we've got our bat. It says RIP, and this says rest in peace. And for those who saw it earlier, piece was up here and upside down. So I am just a genius with this stuff. We're gonna set that aside. We're gonna mix up the epoxy first. Now, I've got my cups. And I have pigment set over here because we're gonna have to play with a little pigment. And what else do I need? I need my gloves on, that's what I need. It's been a few days, you know, I was doing so much epoxy for so long that I had to stop because I had other things to do. And I have to remind myself how to do it all over again. Oh, Rose, thank you. The lettering is Art Nouveau on that one, which now that it's on and up and on this thing, it reads really nicely. It just read like crap as individual letters. All right, so we're gonna go into our mixing here. So I've got 2 cups. We're actually gonna pour a large amount because I need a large amount. So we're gonna get our mixer and we're gonna use art resin because we have a good bit of square footage to cover on that sign. And I don't want it to be just a little tiny thin coating. I need it to have a little depth. So it's gonna take me a second because all of these got closed down tight and now I can't get them open again. Of course, let me see what I got over here to try to lift it up. So we're gonna be using art resin. It's perfect surface for it. If I can get this container open, that would be a miracle because nothing seems to want to be opening it. Here, you can watch me mess with this. I need like one of those little, what I need is to be able to get a grip on this thing and pull it out. There we go. Usually I don't shove these in quite that deep just for the reason you watched. Okay, so I need to pour equal parts. Art resin comes in 2 parts. It's a hardener and the resin. So this is the resin. Don't mix up the lids between the 2. That's why I have the lid off on only one of these bottles. And then I'm gonna pour. And let me aim the camera back down. What's the max depth for art resin? Well, you know, what happens is the deeper and narrower the container, the more it heats up and then it actually cures fast. So while I have cast in molds a depth of 4 or 5 inches, I haven't tried to cast anything big. For the most part, it's recommended, and there's a, you know, and it makes sense that you do several layers, not just one big heavy pour, unless you're pouring into something that's got a mold around it like this. Or a lip around it, I should say. Okay, this is the hardener. Okay, so the deal is, these must be even. You need exactly the same amount in each container. These are a 1-to-1. I can eyeball it because I've been doing it for a long time. I do not recommend anybody else do what I do. I'm telling you, measure it. Are equal parts. If you have too much resin or too much hardener and not enough resin, the resin will start to set up the epoxy will start to set up fast, and it will clump up and it will become brittle if you can even get it to spread. If you put too much resin and not enough hardener in, you may have a mix that never actually hardens correctly. Now, I'm going to do my best to keep track of questions and comments on this, but now that I've got the gloves on and I'm going for the epoxy, it may take me a little while to be able to look up and see for questions. So if I miss anything, I promise I will come back and read this and before we close up everything. But I don't really want to touch a lot of stuff when I have gloves on that are covered with epoxy and stuff. Okay, and you want to scrape out every last little bit. A, it's expensive, and B, if you're trying to get even amounts, you need to get every last little bit in there. You don't just dump it and hope you did it. You carefully measured, so now you're going to carefully scrape out. Almost done. There we go. All that's out, so let's start stirring. And what you're going to do is you're going to stir until, see, as I'm stirring, it's starting to get cloudy. So once it starts to come back clear, you're about ready to go. It takes a minute or two to stir up. You want to go scrape the bottom. You need to scrape the sides. Don't be afraid to stir. I know everybody gets worried about bubbles in their resin. That's what heat guns and torches are for when you're pouring on a flat surface. I try to be more careful about the bubbles on stuff when I cast. I try not to get it too bubbly when I cast, but you know, it happens. Things can get bubbly. Okay. Yeah, there's a little flake of something. I see what it is. It came off of my mixing stick. And here we go. So we have a good mixture here, and there's plenty of it. Although I am going to pour a little bit of it back into another cup because I want to be able to split that up and mix a couple colors into it just to dribble in and make it cloudy. All right, let me move everything out of the way because one thing that never changes is epoxy is messy. Okay, let's put this up here. Want to make sure it's flat on the table, as level as you can get it. My tables aren't terribly level, but I can live with that. I'll adjust the level once I've finished pouring everything. I can put shims and stuff up under here, and I keep shims just for that sort of thing. Shims, if you're not familiar with what they are, they're little pieces of wedge-shaped wood, much thinner than a door stopper. Okay, I had a little piece of glitter stuck on there, and I needed to get it out. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pour this epoxy. And then I'm going to manipulate it a little bit. I need one thing that I didn't bring over. I always think I have it all, and I don't. Okay, I need a room key or a credit card or an old library card. This happens to be my son's old Sioux ID. And I just need to spread the product around. And this is where people get a little afraid. They don't think that they should manipulate it, that it should all just pour and do its own thing. And that's not true. You do need to manipulate, you do need to move it around, you need to get it to fill in all the spaces. And it's, you know, everybody needs to remember, it's a painting product. Yeah, it can get messy, and yes, it can be a challenge. And I think I'm seeing that I need my shims on this end because all my epoxy wants to go that way. You can always tell because it's not as thick up here as it is down here. So I just need to put a couple pieces. Actually, for this, I don't even need to do much more than put a popsicle stick or two under here because it's really not off by that much. There we go. The last of the epoxy in here from this container. There we go. Everything's in here. I'm gonna set that container there because I'm gonna use it again in a second. All right, so I've got all of my epoxy in. It is spread 100% across the surface. That's what I'm checking for right now, making sure it gets in every corner, along every edge. There we go. All right, so I still have this other epoxy, so I'm gonna pour a little bit in here, and I'm gonna keep the rest in here. And what I'm going to do is put a little white and a little black epoxy pigment in there. I could put, actually, you know what? I'm gonna put a little white. I don't want the black. The black will eat things very quickly. It will chew it up. So I'm gonna find a purple pigment to kind of go with the other purples that we've been using. Give me just a second to find it. Okay, purple sapphire, that's the one I want. Okay. So we're gonna put purple sapphire in this one, and we're gonna put white in the other. Mix them all up. And literally, I am putting just, let me move this so maybe you can see where my hand is. I am putting just a tiny bit. I want this to just drift like a little bit of cloud. I want it sheer, I want it light. Taking my white, and I'm literally putting like a drop or so in here. I don't want a lot, because white and blacks in these solid colors, they will swallow up other stuff. And that's the only way to explain it, because it's a little more densely pigmented. All right, let's come over this way so you can see what I'm doing. A little white in here. And then another stick I'm gonna take. And here's my purple. Ooh, look how good that purple is. Okay. So I'm gonna take a little of my white. Okay. I know that looks a little weird now, but see, here's what's going to happen is I'm going to come in here with my fingers and kind of smear it around a little. This is why I haven't torched it yet. I want it smeary. I want it wispy, like wisps of smoke coming through here. Let's get a little over here. Oh, this is going to be really cool by the time I'm done. Okay, let's knock this camera over here a little so you can just see what I'm doing. I have between 45 minutes and an hour now that I've mixed this and poured this to play with it a little bit. At an hour, if I come back and I don't like the way things have settled out, I can come in, stick my fingers in, swirl it, torch it, and it'll be good. So here we have all this wonderful misty white. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the purple. Where did my purple mixing stick go? I don't know. Oh, here's another one. Oh, it's stuck right there in the container. I don't know what anybody's saying. I can't stop and read it right now, but I will. And if I want, after I put the purple in, if I think it needs more, I'll put more white in. But the idea is this is going to be all kinds of swirly and misty in there. Oh, I like the way this is coming out. All right, so let me come back in. Let's do a little of this. Because these will still settle and disperse a little more in the next hour or so before it starts to harden. This will take 12 hours to cure to a safe touchable, 24 hours for usable, and 72 for a full cure. God, this is coming out really, really cool, but I do think I'm going to want a little more white in a few spots. So you can always get your fingers in your epoxy and play. Which is exactly what I've been doing. I don't want to make the rest in piece completely disappear, so I got to be careful right there. Move a little of the epoxy out of the way. Come this way. I think I might need a little more purple on this spot. Bit of swirls in there. I just want some wisps of the colors across this. Okay, that is so cool looking. I'm going along my edges and making sure I didn't drip anything that has to be wiped off. And this is where this is going to sit until tomorrow morning. All right, so the next, I gotta take one of my gloves off so I can touch the torch and not epoxy myself to it. And here we go. Blowtorch. Now, blowtorch deal. You don't take your blowtorch and go directly down in. You take it and you waft it across the surface. The heat helps to liquefy the epoxy even more and raise and burst the bubbles. Okay, and you also have to be careful not to mess around and hold this too hard over these vinyl letters because you can make them curl. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit. Some more bubbles will probably show up, so I'll torch it again. But how cool is that? Oh, I love it. All right, let me flip this up. See, there were some questions. Okay. Go back to the questions. I know I saw. Thank you for the sprinkles, Desiree. Brenda and Jackie, nice to see you here. And Cindy, Nikki, and Sandy. All right, everybody. So I appreciate you sticking this out with me. I know I've had 2 long lives today, but I really needed to get these signs finished, and I figured I might as well just take you all with me. This sign is going to sit here. Now, if I wanted to, I could fill this all the way up with epoxy and have it to be 1 inch deep, no problem. I don't need to. I just wanted sort of this wafty, misty, mystical kind of look over my stuff, and then we're going to be curing it up. Good point. Was that learned? Yes, Desiree. I actually, I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and I was torching the wrong way, and I made a whole bunch of letters on something curl up, and I was like, oh God, I have to peel it off. Then I had to let the epoxy, I had to peel off the letters, let the epoxy cure, and then put the recut the letters and put them over epoxy, which worked just fine, but it was a waste and a waste of my time. So don't do what I did. All right, everyone. It is, getting to 5:45 here in Chicago. So I'm going to say goodnight. I've got to finish packing some stuff up, and then I will see you all. I will be at the Brookfield. If you're watching this and you're local, I will be at the Brookfield Farmers Market tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. But the studio will be closed all day tomorrow. My job is to if I have to get up and set up for a farmer's market, I'm gonna go home and take a nap at 2 o'clock. All right, everybody, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.